What is happening, everybody? It is Robert Phoenix, and you are part of the Astro Weather if you are here. And I'm going to go into chat, and I'm going to do a little roll call to Caesar. I apologize for being late. I actually had to hit the men's room before the show because I didn't want to hit the men's room during the show, if you know what I'm saying. Okay. Let's just do a quick little name check here. DJ MC checking in at 2:58 a.m. That would be, by the way, 12:58 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Michael burning the midnight oil. Healing Heart Rosie, feeling the energy. I know, right? I'm feeling it too. I am definitely feeling the energy. I'm right there with you, Healing Heart. Time. Diane Evans checking in with us. Scott Jerzik, Janice Phillips, the Goat Mom, Jackie Delario. It's a St. Joseph's Day. How about that? Happy St. Joseph's Day, everybody. Wit's Entropy checking in from Ruidosa. What's going on, Wit? Respectivized. Darlene, Road Trip 1981. What's happening? Derek Reagan Walls. 29 Pisces, light passing through a prism. That is a reference to the Sabian symbol for today. Good call, Derek. Christina Jerzik. Buongiorno. Platinum Happiness. So ready for spring. Yes, indeed. We can feel the energy rising. We can feel it rising. Let's get a good start to the season. Tracy F. is here. Sunshine, sunshine, sunshine. The lovely and talented one, saving Austin 1/2 at a time. Queen Lisa, Liddy Lou. Yes, we are getting the wind. Big Wind, Texas. That's what they should be naming the state. My man Ryan is in the house. What's going on, Ryan? 2026, year of the Crimson Horse is coming up fast. Well, it's galloping. We can hear the hooves coming at us. Right, but right now we're still in the transformational snake year. Yes, become a member of Locals. It's free to do that, and you can support the show by becoming a supporting member. Lynette Jardine, Mad Maxine, Josie's Jazzy Junk, Triple J. Spring is sprung on the upper west Gulf Coast of America. It's in the air. There's our guy, Neil Smith from Wisconsin. Yes, please hit like and subscribe. And hit the bell to get notifications. Nights like, oh, what a nice text there. Hello, beautiful souls. Yes, and you can buy me a cup of coffee right at that link, which is also in the description of the show. And for everybody else who has done so, thank you very much for doing that. There's my guy, Steve. It is almost Aries season. I think we're at the tail end. We're at the anaretic degree of Pisces. Happy birthday, Baron Trump, by the way. Yes, the enigmatic and unusual Baron Trump, born on the final day of the zodiac. In some ways, it makes perfect sense. PMSO, Janine, she's with us. Big Dave Sullivan. Charlie checking in from Biloxi. My man Steve is here. Thor at the door. Esperanza Vents Tarot. Soul Traveler. Who else? Kelly B. Tom Jordan in the house. The Bisou just listening. Amy Gill, gorgeous photo. That's a good one, right? For sure. Let's see who else. Claire. I'm seeing Claire tomorrow. Laura E. in the house. Glemma Spank. Stephanie Hunter. Greetings back at you. Sweet Woodruff from North Texas. North Texas representing tonight, or today rather. Moon Sprout. Who else we have here? Harriet Bowie. Hey, Lisa Ann White. Magic Cat. Interstellar Cosmic Conversations with Patricia. Judy Taylor. Moira NYC. Glenda Davies. Ratchet Boo. Andrea Garland. Siciliana Aphrodite. Ciao, ciao, ciao. Any word, butt crack of dawn in Oakland. Does that mean St. Joe's is making an NC2A run? Maybe. Could be. Yes, I was on Quite Frankly last night. It was a good show. I love being on with Frank. Frank is a good dude, and there's a nice symbiosis with our two audiences. All right, so I'm a little late, and I can't get to everybody today, so I'm going to jump in and start the weather. How about that? So we have plenty of time on the weather front. And I have to make sure that we get that graphic up there because StreamYard is a little bit glitchy with the images lately. So I have to do a little quality control and do this. Then go back and then, oh, look at that. Yep, doesn't work there. So I have to go back again. I don't know what's up with StreamYard with this. Second time I come in, I'll bring up the chart. There it is. Go back and I check, and there it is. See how that works? Yes. They've got me trained like a monkey. Let's see. Let's zoom in a little bit. Okay. We are right at the tail end of Pisces, the final day of the astrological season. And tomorrow we have the spring equinox, time of rebirth. We can feel it. It's in the air. And I was thinking today, as I was listening to some music prior to the show, feeling good. I'm feeling good today. And I hope you are as well, wherever you are. I hope you're feeling good. And it is an absolute act of utter defiance to feel good in the world that we're currently inhabiting. It is the greatest act of defiance you can participate in on a daily basis. And some days there's going to be some heavy lifting, but I tell you what, life is a game of momentum. And we're going to go with this Piscean metaphor of the wave, the great wave, the great Sun-Neptune conjunction. All right, this is your Mavericks. Right? This is your Mavericks. Actually, I'm going to use a different metaphor. There's a great surf movie called Step Into Liquid. I love the movie. Now, when I was younger, I surfed. And I surfed in Santa Cruz, but I haven't surfed in years. And the way that my back is, I'm probably never going to surf again unless I'm boogie boarding it. But that's fine. But there's a scene in Step Into Liquid, and they have surfing in all these different situations all around the world and different people. Like they have a guy who is basically boogie boarding because he got paralyzed surfing, and he went back into the waves and got back on his board. He doesn't stand up anymore, right? But that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about are these surfers. I don't know if they're still doing this. Maybe they are. But in the Gulf, down here in Texas, where there aren't many really big waves, they have oil tankers. And the oil tankers come in, and the oil tankers will set up a small wave that is part of their entrance into Galveston or Port Aransas or Houston or wherever they're going. And surfers, these are longboard guys, they will come out and they will hit those waves, and they will ride those waves for a couple of miles. Now, they're not huge, daunting. If I bite it, this wave is going to take me down, and I better be prepared to have a lot of breath and deal with my life, right? No, these are long, sort of gentle waves that are created by these oil tankers. These guys just set on longboards. They just ride them for miles. This is where we are right here, the Sun-Neptune conjunction. It is the long wave. So get on it right now. Today is a long wave day. Look at the moon. We got the moon at 26, Scorpio coming in and trining the sun and trining Neptune. We got Mars right here at 20 degrees, trining the sun and trining Neptune. We have a fantastic grand water trine today. Today is a very important day. And you may think, well, tomorrow is the first day of spring, and it'll be cool, right? The moon will be in Sag. We have Juno in Sag, and it feels very springy, even though Sag is a winter sign. Sag likes to kick up its heels, and it's those centaurs are a little randy, right? So Sagittarius is not necessarily a bad sign to start the first day of spring off on, especially when we have the Juno there and the moon's going to be there a little bit afterwards. But today we are riding this wave. Today is an important day. What you do today and the intentions you set and the vibration you bring into this day is going to be the long wave that you're going to be surfing from now until the autumnal equinox, which is the other side. This is when the wave, you could say, well, until the summer solstice. I'm going to go beyond that. This is a long wave all the way until September. So allow yourself the luxury of feeling good. You're here, you're alive. I'd say that the majority of you, if not the entirety of you, managed to evade the carjack. Count your lucky blessings there and reward yourself for your fortitude and your foresight, right? So you're on the long wave now. And find something to feel good about. Find something to celebrate. Maybe not about yourself, but about life in general. And this is the energy you're taking in. You're taking this energy into the new astrological year. I think it's really important. And life is a game of momentum. And of course, we have up cycles and down cycles, and you can learn from the down cycles. And many of us have. And you can learn a lot from harmony and flow. So the moon in Scorpio has been quite an ally, even though it's been in opposition with Uranus. And that's been kind of disruptive, hasn't it? There's been a lot of swatting going on. Owen Schroyer's house got swatted. Juanita Broderick, her house got swatted. All of these conservative, I don't know if you would even call Owen a hardcore Trump supporter. I think Owen is probably more of a, I don't know, Constitution, First Amendment guy, right? That he's always kind of hung his hat on that. I don't know if that includes his fealty to Trump, but he was swatted. So you have all these people that are being swatted. And I really feel like, and this is just over the last couple of days, this is really the heart of this Uranus moon opposition. Like, the moon is the home. It's your abode. It's the fourth house. And Uranus is what? Disruptive. It's disruptive. And the weird thing about swatting is that the police have to go. They have to go. They have to respond to the call. And it's like, okay, well, can we have a look around and da 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 da. And then eventually they wind up leaving. And the real challenge is that a lot of these calls are made on VoIP, voice over internet protocol, which would be something along the lines of Skype, although Skype is going away. But there are other VoIPs that allow people to make unidentified calls, and they're very hard to trace. So this has been the Uranus moon opposition, and we've been watching it happen. Been very, very disruptive. We still have Mercury and Venus, and they're retrograding, and I talked at length about them yesterday, and we can still revisit that today. that a lot of the decisions, I would avoid contracts at all cost, unless you've already, and this is a tricky part, like it's harder to amend a deal once you've made the deal. Okay. However, if you are going to get out of a deal, a retrograde is a good time to do it. So if you want to alter or break a contract, Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, Aries, it's your friend. Now, there could be some repercussions. We talked about this yesterday, as both of those planets retrograde to roughly 25 degrees. This 25 degrees Pisces is a big number, because Saturn, once it goes into Aries, will retrograde to 25. So both Mercury and Venus are also retrograding to around 20. So all three of them, now not at the same time. They're retrograding at different times, but it's that 25th degree of Pisces that is pretty significant this year because of these three planets and basically stopping at or around 20. I think all three of them are at 25. I know Saturn is, and I believe Venus is as well. So if you decide to get out of a deal, which you can, and I think this retrograde would be helpful to that, when both of those planets retrograde into Pisces, you may have some remorse. Just like the people who make decisions during Mercury retrograde may have some remorse as well, like contractual decisions. Like that's just the nature of Pisces, especially in the retrograde place. Now, when it stations, it's a different story. You'll have a much better understanding about the ramifications of the decision, whatever decisions are made during this time. So I would wait. I wouldn't judge any decisions, whether you have made them, because sometimes this is just life, right? Like if you have to sign a contract and the contract is dependent upon you doing it in a timely fashion, and 4 weeks from now is not going to be a reasonable time, like you may have to do it. I mean, that's just kind of like, sometimes that's the way these things go. Although you could walk away. I mean, that's another option, to say, look, I don't want to do this right now. Come back to me in 4 weeks. I mean, you can always do that. And I'm not saying that it's the best strategy, but you can. Astrologically, it would certainly make sense. But there are times when, we're under a deadline and we have to do certain things at a certain time, and it may not always line up with astrological time. So if you do have to do something when both of these inner planets are retrograde, just remember that you may be able to alter that when it goes into Pisces and hits that station and even that direct mode, right? Because I feel like with both Venus and Mercury, especially in Pisces, which is mutable, there can be some like editing. There can be some adaptability. So I guess what I'm saying here is what you want to really pay attention to is the retrograde phase when they both go into Pisces, because there can be a lot of emotional regret when it goes into Pisces. But I would say just wait it out. This is one of the things that's most difficult with the water signs, because they draw us in emotionally. And unlike air, which gives us the ability to kind of detach and not be engaged or look at things from a much more neutral perspective, water draws us in. Right? And it's through emotion that we identify with our experience. This is the nature of emotion. This is one of the things that makes us human, right? Theoretically, unlike our up and coming android twins that are on their way with Uranus and Gemini, can't wait for that. But it's the capacity to feel that makes us human, for better or worse. It creates great art and great tragedy and great mistakes and uh, great creations. It's the nature of water. So when both of these planets move into that retrograde space, it's a real test, right? It's kind of like we're kind of boiling in our own pot a little bit. And it can be very uncomfortable, but if we just hang out during the retrograde and sort of wait it through in Pisces, we'll get there. I mean, Venus is just 4 degrees away, so we'll have that discussion next week about Venus retrograde in Pisces. But if you just hang out there, and I don't want to use the word stew, but I'll kind of use the word stew. And sometimes the stewing part can be important, like, and I don't want to really contradict the momentum piece, because the momentum piece is really important. And this is a way for you to keep your momentum sort of moving, right? And it's allowing for something to occur inside of you. It doesn't mean you have to do anything about it. It doesn't mean that you have to run and course correct or whatever kind of solution that's the most immediate to either make you feel better or make another person feel better. It's like, that's not really what it's about. It's kind of about hanging in there and dealing with the choices that have been made. And if you can just hang in there and just sort of sit with it and allow it to ferment, that's the word I'll use, ferment, you're going to learn something. And it will be emotionally driven, but it'll be emotionally driven in a way that can kind of rewire you and sort of reset your emotional body. Like these are really important retrogrades, because it's not very often that Mercury and Venus in the same sign are retrograding at the same time. And the sign is really important. It's Aries. It's like, okay, it's springtime, we should be moving forward. But the two signs the two planets are in that sign right now are actually moving backwards. So it's kind of a weird thing, but trust this grand water trine. Just stay with it, ride that wave. And then when this time comes, and you may not have to go through that. This is not like a general prescription for everybody with the Venus Mercury retrograde into Pisces. But it's also things that you've like done in the past. And it may not even be now, while these two planets are retrograde. It could have been 20 years ago. It could have been 15, whatever. It's like, these planets are looking backwards. And Pisces represents the ramification of our choices that we make on an emotional level. And all the water signs are in play here, but Pisces is the final destination, right? Everything, all waters end in the great ocean of Pisces, or the 12th house. So it doesn't even have to be during this cycle. It could be during a different time, a different period of your life, and you're looking back and you're saying, shit, I wish I'd done something different. We all do. We all have periods or moments where it's like we have this clarity of 2020 hindsight. And I talked about this idea of soul retrieval a bit yesterday. And we're kind of in that territory with Mercury and Venus retrograding into Pisces, the 12th sign, the 12th house, the house of the soul, right? We're kind of in that territory. And it's very interesting that, we're having this discussion during this time and moving forward, because I'm telling you, it's going to be a brave new world. Once Mercury and Venus go direct, Saturn is not far behind. Venus, Mercury move back into Aries. Saturn moves into Aries. Neptune moves into Aries. And for a while, we have a brave new world. And then we have the retrogrades. And then by 2026, January 2026, the brave new world is upon us. So I feel like this time with Venus and Mercury retrograde, it's very important, very, very important. And I feel like this concept of forgiveness is critical, and allowing you, the individual, to participate in forgiveness. It is a gift. It is free. Like, you don't have to purchase it. You don't have to make payments on it. It's right there. It's always available. And the forgiveness can be for the things that you've done, right? Choices you've made. Or the forgiveness can be directed towards another person. And you could reach out to that person during these retrogrades, especially in Pisces, and just say, look, I fill in the blank. Whatever the thing was, you fill in the blank, and just say, that was a different time. And if I had it to do over again, I probably would have done something different. Hindsight is 2020, and it may not change the outcome of what happened, but I'm here, I'm conscious, I'm aware of it. And I apologize for whatever role I played here. And if you want to forgive me, that's great. And if not, I understand. I just need to be on the record. And you want to clear this stuff out. You want to clear it out, because when these two planets move forward again, we're kind of in a new time, and you want to be prepared. You don't want to have a lot of baggage. I'm going to call it the brave new world. We're moving into the brave new world. We're moving into uncharted territory with our currency, with our politics, with our technology. We are really in a very, very strange and accelerated place. Sort of like that Temptation song, Ball of Confusion, right? Round and around we go, where the world stops, nobody knows. That's kind of where we are. Nobody really knows where this is going. We don't really have a map for this. Yeah, we can look at the astrology, and there was a civil war with Neptune on Aries 0, right? Yeah, Pluto was in uh, uh, Aquarius when the Revolutionary War was happening. Yeah, Uranus was in Taurus during World War II. So we have these markers with the outer planets that remind us of these great conflicts. So we can kind of see that. But this is different, right? When Neptune and Saturn change signs together, Saturn rules time. And in Aries, it really kind of represents a new time. Remember, Aries is the new. It is the beginning of something new. It is literally the dawn of a new day. So Saturn in Aries, Neptune in Aries, it is the beginning of a new time. And Neptune doesn't necessarily make it easier, because we don't know where this is all going. So you want to be kind of prepared. You don't want a lot of baggage moving in here. So whether it's a person or yourself, whatever, right? This Mercury Venus retrograde in Pisces, and we'll track it. We'll keep our eyes on it every day here. I'll tell you where we're at with it. Those are going to be critical periods. And what you're able to clean up, release, disentangle from, surrender, however you go about doing it, it's critical. Really, really critical. Because when these planets move forward, they'll be moving forward in anticipation of the new time. which is on its way. In the meantime, find your momentum. Right? This is a really, really powerful wave that we can ride right now. And I'll end this part with where we started. The most defiant act that you can participate in is an affirmation of life and your role in it. So remember that is the most defiant thing that any individual can do. All right. Let's do this. Let's do our True Hemp Science star of the day. By the way, Chris wanted to pass on to me to say thank you to everybody who has been supporting the business and buying his CBD. So I just wanted to pass that along to you. He wanted to say thank you and extend his appreciation to all of you. And there's a good reason why you purchase his CBD, because it kicks ass. It is some of the best CBD you'll run across. And it is the expertise that goes into creating it. He's a mad scientist in a good way. And he uses nothing but organically sourced hemp for his CBD. And we are absolutely grateful for that. So all you got to do is type in 15MINS, 15MINS, and you can get a goodie bag when you spend $100 or more. So it's like a little order within your order. And the goodie bag is like the Whitman sampler. That's what I refer to. And you'll like the goodie bag. You will enjoy the goodie bag, especially if you get some gummies in there. Boy, it'll make your day. A couple of days. $150 more, get you free shipping, and there's always a 30-day money-back guarantee. 30 days. You don't like it, if you don't feel like it's working for you, 2 weeks in, send it back. They'll send your money back. How good is that? That's how we do business. All right, let's talk about our True Hemp Science star of the day. It is Albert Speer. And Albert Speer is he's a very interesting fellow. He is the architect of the Third Reich, but he's also not just the architect, meaning he's designing these buildings, these very kind of proto-Greek, Romanesque, sort of Aryan temples and structures. Albert Speer is the guy who is creating them, right? But he also becomes involved in armaments. So he's not only the architect of the Third Reich, but he's creating weapons. He's a central figure. Some people put him at number 2 behind Adolf Hitler when it comes to the hierarchy of World War II. Now, I don't disagree with that. And astrologically, I will tell you why. If we go over here, you'll see Venus and Jupiter in Taurus, and this is in Speer's 12th house, where he has a grand Earth trine. Okay. When was Adolf Hitler born? He was born on 4/20, which puts his sun sign right at the beginning of Taurus. Right there. So Adolf Hitler's sun sign is conjunct Albert Speer's Jupiter and Albert Speer's Venus. Now, there are people who believe that Speer and Hitler were close. Now, I've also heard or read that the psychological rendering of their friendship while it might smack of homoerotica, there is something psychically that binds Speer and Hitler, and they're both in a form of projection with each other. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but they were very, very close. Now, the thing that's interesting about Speer, aside from the fact that you can see that connection with Hitler right here, is that Albert Speer is one of the few main members of Hitler's inner circle that is at the Nuremberg trials. He's like the highest ranking member of the Nazi party at the Nuremberg trials. A lot of the other people that were there were not as influential as Speer. This guy was like number 2. You know, there's no Göring, there's no Eichmann, there's no Hitler. None of those characters are there. Why is that? Well, they're all in South America. Somehow he didn't get a ticket to the submarine. But what happens with Speer, and I think a lot of this has to do with Neptune on his ascendant and the sun in Pisces in the 10th house, is that Speer actually shows remorse for his participation in the Third Reich. And he winds up going to... Now, here's what's interesting about Speer. He shows remorse. He has this come to Jesus moment, and is very public about it. But what he doesn't do is he does not admit to whatever atrocities or narrative that the Holocaust is. He doesn't go there. He doesn't... They're trying to kind of get him to talk about it and admit that he had some sort of... He never goes there. So it's very interesting. You have to ask yourself the question, why doesn't he go there? Is it because he has this Mercury-Neptune square, Neptune's on his ascendant, and he's going to lie, and he's going to evade? I don't know, maybe, perhaps. Or maybe he can't admit to something that he had no hand in, which could be also true, right? He may have been the architect, and he may have been the guy who created the armaments, but he may have had nothing to do with the quote-unquote camps. So why would he admit to that? And then there's the greater question about what they were really about. Either way, he does two things. He admits to his culpability with his role in the Third Reich, but he doesn't admit to, theoretically, the greatest atrocity humanity has ever seen. So he winds up going to prison. Here's Pluto, 12th house. He goes to prison, and he eventually gets out of prison. Now, while he's in prison, he goes through a spiritual transformation. And he starts to follow this mystic. It's kind of, he's kind of I think he's German. I forget his name. He's a German sort of Christian. He's modern. And he also strikes up a relationship with a rabbi. And kind of when he gets out, he starts to move in this direction. Like he moves into a kind of a more quasi-religious and spiritual world because, number one, I think he sees this as his path of redemption. And number two, I think he's kind of wired for it, right? Even with Saturn in the eighth house. Let's talk a little bit about Saturn in the eighth house. For me, Saturn in the eighth house represents the. I would personify it as a religious / spiritual teacher, and you usually come to it late in life. That's the whole nature of Saturn. So he comes into this Saturn later in life. It's in Aquarius, and he starts to have these connections with rabbis, sort of pacifist, Christian clergy. And in his own right, he sort of becomes a spiritual teacher, right? He's come through the Third Reich. He's come through Nuremberg. He's come through being in prison. And he's had a come to Jesus moment. And this is what his life is about. And you can actually see this with the Saturn-Neptune trine. Now, there are some people who believe that he's doing it just to get off the hook. I don't necessarily believe that. Not with this chart. He's got the sun right at the end of Pisces. It's not quite 29. It's the most volatile degree. But I think this guy was bound to go there eventually. He's got that Pluto-Neptune trine with Saturn. Very interesting. So this is a very interesting chart. He's got Mars in Scorpio. That's probably why Hitler liked him. And he's got that Mars in trine with all planets with Mercury. So he's got this ability to have this kind of intense life force with Mars and Scorpio. And with Mercury, you have these ideas that are actionable in Aries. And of course, Aries is kind of a theme for the regime that he's in, right? Aries, Aryan, this idea of, sort of, war, conquest. So he's a fit. There's a fit here. I think he has to deal with the ramifications of his actions, and that's the Mars-Saturn square. It looks like he's born on a lunar eclipse as well, which is interesting. And I feel like the lunar eclipse is going to kind of obfuscate his emotions. I wouldn't doubt that Speer and Hitler had serious man love for each other. Like Hitler looked at this guy and said, man, this guy is going to be my Edison, my Tesla, my Frank Lloyd Wright, kind of all rolled up into one. This guy can do everything. And for Speer, I think that he saw Hitler as kind of a major figure in his life, right? Who allowed him to act on all these creative ideas that he had. So it's a fascinating relationship, and one that I think is maybe a lot closer than other people may want to admit. Anyway, he gets out of prison, has kind of his redemption tour, becomes an author, and comes full circle, right? And I feel like this is a very interesting life. Like this guy is, at the highest level of the Third Reich. He's like one or two behind Hitler. He's part of this major movement with the German people and this historical moment in time. And he's one of the few that comes through it. And he comes out the other side, and he's like religious. And it's fascinating, very, very fascinating. You're not going to find a whole lot of lives like Albert Speer. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he probably could have met the fate of more lower ranking officials from Nuremberg. We wouldn't have heard about him again. They would just take him out and shot him or hang him or however they were executing them. But that's not the case. And again, this Pluto in the 12th house, remember the 12th house represents things like prisons and sanitariums and hospitals. And he has a transformational moment. Well, it's a long transformational moment. I think he was in there for 26 years or something like that. A long time. But there you go. It's the flexibility of Neptune on the ascendant. It's the Pisces sun. And I think a lot of this allows, he also has this mystic rectangle. Almost. It's almost there. We're missing the sextile there. I was about to make an analogy with the mystic rectangle. People with mystic rectangles have this ability. They're like cats, and you kind of throw them out the window and they land on their feet. And it's this ability to kind of regain balance. He's kind of there, but not quite there. And look at Uranus, unusual relationships. Those are going to, it's going to kind of start with kind of these whispers of Hitler, right? But they will continue on. He has unusual, like he and a rabbi become buddies. It's a very odd life. This would be actually a very good movie to make. If somebody had the stones to make a movie about Albert Speer, it would be really interesting. Like you could start the movie off with him talking to this rabbi friend of his and sort of recounting and going back in time and telling his life story. Like that would be a really interesting sort of device to get the narrative going. But the way things are now, you can't even, I mean, I suppose you could make an Inglourious Bastards kind of movie. You could do some revenge porn, but you could not have a very human sort of look at the life of somebody like Albert Speer. The movie would be boycotted, right? All right. Let's bring this thing into the dock or the port or whatever kind of watery metaphor we want to use. And I wish you all a great day. Celebrate. Celebrate. Even you people south of the equator, you don't get left out of this. All my friends down in Australia, New Zealand, you have every single right to celebrate as well. Because affirmation is the greatest act of defiance that you can participate in this lifetime. All right. Treat each other well. God bless. Love you all. And we'll be back tomorrow for another round of Astro Weather. Links are for 15 minutes of flame. There's a lot to talk about. And I'm going to talk about a lot of different subjects. But the first subject I'm going to talk about is a very bizarre story related to Dr. Mercola. Now, we talked about him before in his weird relationship with a channel named Bolon, but through McGill University, it's gotten even weirder. So join us over there. We'll start there, but we won't end there. Until then, take care. Bye for now.